Joba for very elaborate introduction. And also I thank Dr. Bhuban Barua for inviting me to deliver this very important and very emerging area of talk today to the very big gathering. I think 243 students are attending right now. So I think very big webinar what I see. And I'm happy to address such a big gathering today on a very important topic, that is IPR prospects and challenges of artificial intelligence and blockchain technologies. It's a very important area because the way technology is growing and also taking over the roles done by the human being nowadays, and also the way it is going to affect the entire technical sector, entire IP sector, in fact patent design and copyrights, data protection, all these areas. It's very important to discuss and deliberate because it's going to be great shift than the norms we used to follow. And because of this shift, it is going to change the entire world very seriously. Because one way it is very useful, the way we wanted to regulate and control the entire IP sector. Another way, the kind of efficiency and the kind of benefits providing is very important. We know very well that for any kind of IPR, we have to find out the kind of innovation and also kind of creativity, a new design, new technology, and to get the IPR. So IPR is always in sync to the technology, because if you see the development of IPR, it is mostly started after the Gutenberg, that the printing press is invented earlier, more than 400-500 years back. That was the main problem started, because it has given the kind of tool that very quickly and very fast you can reproduce the work and recirculate the work and reinvent the work, and then in that case you have more kind of option to violate somebody's copyright. So one way, technology is always kind of useful for production of more IPR, and the other side, technology is also a tool for giving the violation of the IPR, because we have seen that by the printing press, anybody can easily Xerox the work, copy the work, reproduce the work, and circulate without the permission of the author. An author may not be able to track the work, that who is at what place circulating and distributing the work. Same, we have seen the same challenge when we have seen the CD, DVD writers, people without the permission of the main author, they used to reproduce the work and they supply in the market. So in the, at least in the, during the printing press area, Xeroxing, the second work, the second work, that is Xerox work, is not of such a quality. Same what happening in the DVD and CD writers, we used to have the kind of some more similarity. So the quality has improved. So copied version is improved drastically. Then we have seen right now the era of the softwares. Today, if you're going to copy the any copyrighted work or any data, you can very easily copy. So my point is that because of technology, we are going to re-innovate, develop, create new thoughts, new ideas, new invention, and we can go on getting a lot of IPRs. Other way, the technology can also help the very fast violations of the IPR. So this is always a big challenge, because anybody is trying to create some IPR, that person is going to invest a lot amount of money, energy, time, resources, and that's why the objective of IPR is that anybody putting this kind of hard labor, intellectual work and investment, he should be protected for some time period, and then again after some time period it will go to the public domain, so others will be able to get the benefits. Because if you go on providing the protection to the creator or inventor for unlimited time period, he will become elitist and he will become so rich. In that case, he is going to hamper the gap between the have and have nots, that we are not supporting, because the entire idea of the jurisprudence, entire idea of the Indian Constitution is that we have to maintain the bridge, we have to reduce the bridge. That's why we have right to equality and all. If ask my opinion, I want to say that the theory of grand norm of the Indian Constitution is equality. So our law is always trying to provide equality. So idea is that any inventor, any creator will invest his time, money, energy, and he will be given the protection for certain time period. So he will get back return from the market. And once he is able to get back from the market, because we are having the reasonable time period, so he can get back. After that, the right must go to society, public at large, so other people will be able to produce and get some lot of benefits. In this process, there are a lot of kind of the fair use provisions are there in 52 of the copyright law. And also we are trying to support that academic development, because it is always allowed to have the copyright work used by the parliamentarians, judges, teachers, academics, researchers, because they're going to create something more because of fair use. So this is the current scenario about the kind of the copyright law or IPR. Then we have seen the internet coming in 1995 for the first time. We have seen the internet came in India, and then we had we had a challenge, because in 1995 there was no IT law, and there was no kind of the software protection law. There was no kind of internet law, and we allowed the mobile phones, we allowed the internet in the country, and people started using the internet technology for use of various purposes. Because technology will not wait whether law is there or not there, regulation is there or not there, because it will see the benefits. We see always benefits. Customer, the consumer will see benefits, and all the technical producers, software companies, mobile companies, IT companies, they will see their benefit. They will go on producing. But we as a lawyer, as a law professional, as a legal thinker, we always try to regulate the things, because if there is no regulation at all, it may create more havoc, more problem for society. And if we too much regulate, it will further has problem for the business and development, because if we regulate too much, the development will not take place naturally. If every nook and corner and at every level, every step, you are trying to regulate certain thing, then in that case, technology will not grow. So that's why the debate is still continuing, that what will be the level of regulation for science and technology, internet, mobile phone, social media, AI, blockchain. Now we have seen the things are growing faster and faster. This challenge will always be there, because how much to regulate and what to regulate, what level to regulate. Then in 1995 to 2000, there was no law in the country, and we have to see lot of mushrooming of websites. People used to copy and open the website without permission of the original owner. For example, we have seen 7 websites of Wipro company. Somebody has opened in USA, other countries, wiprosr.com, ashimpremji.com, wipro.com. Wipro is a very well-known brand in the country. It's a multinational company. So Wipro should be allowed to open their websites. But because technical reasons, people all over the world try to open the websites of Wipro's name directly, indirectly. Because in technical system, even you put a comma, dot, full stop, change the name here and there, you can get a new website. And then you start doing business. So the person who just seeing on the screen, on the internet, in Google, he will feel that I am on the original site because it shows Wipro, but it is not a Wipro. So this is called as a kind of cyber squatting. So cyber squatting was very fast, rampant in the 1995 to 2000, because there was no regulation. Only for the first time in 2000, once we had our IT law came, that IT Act 2000, it was passed on the 17th June, and it became a law in force in the country on 17th October 2000. So you can say the origin of cyber law in India taken place only on 17th October 2000. Till that, there was no regulation of cyber law, no regulation of the internet, mobile phone technology, websites. So even website, we have seen for the first time Yahoo case, Yahoo India was Akash Arora. Delhi High Court said that the websites will be just like a trademark. So that's why if anybody is opening a website, he should be allowed to open once he is owner of the trademark. And all the old brand holders who already have a trademark, only they'll be allowed to use same name for the websites. And then again, we have seen that another case in 2007, that is the 2005, sorry, that is the another case came in the Supreme Court of India, Satyam case, Satyam versus Infobay case. Satyam case, we know the Satyam was the company of the kind of the IT company, and there were 7 people who just by making a group and started a business, and they have registered a Satyam website, and they started doing the same business on internet, selling the software, this and that. And that particular site grown like anything because people thought that we are buying the Satyam software, Satyam products, but it was not Satyam. It was somebody else. So again, the case was filed and it went to Supreme Court of India for the first time. Supreme Court in 2005. It was then is kind of they declared that no, these websites are trademark, and only those owners who are having the established trademark, they will be allowed to register a website. So that is the area of the trademark challenges. But right now, I think then we had seen the .com companies flourishing. People are just using a website for doing any business, social media, this and that. So that was the journey of the trademark. Then we come back to copyright law, because copyright law, there was no defined terms earlier regarding the software. So because these softwares are used by the one and zeros, kind of the any language, because in the copyright
Dr. Ahmed, you have muted yourself. Could you please unmute yourself, Dr. Ahmed? Dr. Ahmed, sir?
Dr. Ahmed?
Dr. Ahmed? Dr. Ahmed, sir?
Dr. Ahmed, you're not audible, sir.
Dr. Ahmed, sir? You are not audible.
English language, we have some alphabets.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
by alphabetical arrangements, you can write in the same way. By software, you can write anything. So you can also have any expression by use of software, but just arrangement of one and zeros, electrical impulse, no electrical impulse. In that case, it was declared that even softwares are copyrightable. Because if you go to see the section 13 and 14 of the Copyright Act, it says that anything, new original expression in the form of literary, dramatic, musical, artistic work, film, sound recording, and then databases, even the compilations. So softwares, compilations, databases are now protected as a copyright law. But currently now then database has taken very fast growth now because of the internet technology. Now everything depending on data. So the current challenge is that protection of databases, because compilation is just like a copyright protection. Anybody will compile something, he will get a fresh copyright, right? Because even in a compilation, you can have a different kind of expression. For example, somebody has made a kind of, suppose, law professor list of entire India. And then another person, so this person will get a copyright because he has compiled the list of law professors of India. He will get a copyright. Now another person also want to make a listing of the law teachers, law professors of the country. What he should do, he has to
Sabri, sir, you have unmuted
or he can arrange the kind of city-wise, or he can make the professors of law in the country specialization-wise, who are experts of IPR, who are experts of cyber law, who are experts of criminal law, constitutional law, contract, tort. He will get also fresh copyright. So even this particular data is same, but everybody is trying to express in different way. Everybody will get a fresh copyright. So copyright law, if you compare to patent law, requirement of expression in copyright law is not very kind of utmost requirement. You just express in some different new way, you will get a copyright. But if you go to patent law, to get a patent, you have to have very kind of 4 requirements are there. That is novelty, non-obviousness, and also you have the industrial application utility. And that one inventive step is very serious requirement, and that is not very easy. In the database protection, what is happening that in data protection law, the main challenge is that how to find out that what amount of data anybody has copied, from where copied. And then that's why the database law became a great challenge in the country. And right now, what we see as the experts, we say that if you see earlier days, we used to say that you can say anybody who has a kind of oil, energy, gas will be a market leader. He will be a billionaire, or that country can be leading the world. But now the market has changed. Today we are saying data is new oil. So anybody, any company or any country who has data, global data, that country or company will be the market leader. So that's why now big fight is going on globally. In every country is trying to have data. So what we have seen recently that government of India has banned 59 Chinese applications after the on 20th of the June, when we have seen that problem in the border line of the India and China. Again, that repercussion, India government has banned 59 applications. So now what we find, those 59 applications, they were free. Anybody in the world can use those 15 applications without paying single penny. Even in fact, you want to open a kind of account, I think we are doing on Zoom. This Zoom platform also free. Even you can do open account on the Facebook, Google, Gmail, LinkedIn, Twitter, all these are free. We are very happy we are getting free kind of service. But it is no, anything is coming free, it has a lot of hidden benefits to the person who is supplying those kind of the things. So what these companies are doing, these companies are actually running because of data. So we are generating a lot of amount of data by social media, by logging to the Gmails or in this platform, kind of Zoom. We are creating a lot amount of data. So this data, mostly what is happening, the data centers are mostly lying in the foreign countries, because these companies are mostly multinational companies and their data centers are mostly in the foreign countries. And what they're doing, they will be analyzing the data, and after data analysis, what they will do, they will try to use for business purpose. Okay. So that's why what happened last year, Government of India has said that any foreign or multinational company doing business in India and they're doing some online payment system, they have to maintain a data center in India. If you're not maintaining data center in India, what will happen? That you will not be allowed to operate the business. So that's why we said data localization. So in our new data protection law, it is pending in the parliament, that we have seen the challenges after the Aadhaar case, and we have seen of the Puthuswamy case, that it has said that data protection is a kind of just like fundamental right. So now Government of India is very serious for data protections. Now they're going to have a new law. So that new law is in final stage, and that the new data protection law is very advanced law. And in fact, just like the GDPR law of European Union, that is the currently most advanced data protection law of the country. And then our data protection law is saying that there must be data localization. So any foreign company who is operating in India and having any payment system, they have to have a data center in the country. And that data center, because if anything will happen, any hacking, cracking, any cyber crime will come, then that our police and enforcement official will be able to access that website or that data center, at least find the data for analysis and for the punishment of the particular cyber criminal. In earlier days, because data were going to the foreign country, getting data information was very, very serious challenge. And also it is going to provide that kind of information to the data owners. In earlier days, when anything was happening with our data, we were not given any information. So, but now what is happening by this law? Anybody using our data, he has to say that why data collection was going on, for what purpose data was collected, and how data will be used. And also, if data will be breached, that company is bound to inform us immediately your data is breached. So data protection law is going to be one of the good law of the country. It is in process. I see that very recently we are going to have the data protection coming in India. Because now even data protection now will decide the foreign direct investment, because anybody now coming in India for any business, they will see that whether our data protection law is one of the good law or not, whether their data is safe, data is protected. Because what happened in Zoom case, I think you must be knowing, there's a case pending in the parliament, case pending in Supreme Court of India regarding the Zoom application. Because what happened, there was some confidential meetings happening, even in the Prime Minister's office and some of the office of the the foreign minister and all, and some of the there was some leakage of the information. People were trying to listen, because I'm not sure that in our meeting we are having this 286 participants. We are having this meeting. I'm not sure whether this meeting somebody is listening by the Zoom group, and they may just collect data about what happened today. So this way, anything happening on any platform may not be safe. So that's why currently any government, any community, or any society, any business group, they are very now want to have confidential data protection. So because see what happens, and corporate sector require more data protection, because if the two competing companies, and one competing company has some kind of strategy, business planning, launching some new products, the product specification, product design, and then other company, if they will able to find the data information, they can then manipulate, and they can be just like misusing this information to compete in the market to other company. So that's why for anybody, this protection of information is very, very important. So what I see, even for foreign direct investment, if you want to attract the good foreign company in India to coming doing business, you must have very, very strong data protection law. So one important area is growing in the IPR sector is that the data protection law. So in the world right now, only the European Union has very, very strong data protection law. We say GDPR of European Union. India is going to have very soon. And some other countries also, even America has a data protection law. This Malaysia has, and Australia has. So they are doing very strong kind of data protection kind of the law. So the current now the new challenge is coming that now data protection is going to be settled, but the new challenge is coming that regarding the AI, the artificial intelligence. So what is happening that all these companies, the social media sites, and everybody, what they're doing, they're going to use this data and using the AI, artificial intelligence, to utilize this information for some business purpose. For example, you might have seen yourself that if you go and search on Google about latest, suppose Apple phones, and you open after 1 hour, 2 hour to your Facebook account, you will see that in your account, you will see a lot of ads are coming. This is the latest iPhone 11 is going to be launched, 12 prices now, 12 is, this is the specification, and for iPhone 7, 8, 9, 10, there are a lot of offers are going on. You will feel that, my God, why this Facebook accounts telling me about the iPhone only? Why not for Samsung? Why not for Nokia? Why not for other brands? Or sometime if you suppose you want to go for Dubai and you are searching the flight tickets on Google, and if you go to your Facebook account or LinkedIn social media accounts, you will find that the moment you log in, you will get a lot of ads. Or sometime you'll get even an email. You'll get spam mails telling you that these are the offers going on for the mobile phones, for the travel to Dubai, or for hotel bookings. So how it's happening? These are happening because of the artificial intelligence. So what it is doing? It is collecting your data, analyzing, and then telling you. Now there is a lot of business of Google optimization, search engines. So all the top universities, private universities in the what they're doing, they are doing they are signing agreement with Google, paying money for data optimization. Okay, how they're saying? For example, if the Harvard may not be liking to do, but maybe some second grade university, they want to have more Indian students for some course, they can sign agreement with the Google saying that anybody is logging on Google, for example, law courses in the foreign universities, then university will be reflecting first. For searching, suppose good universities, the person who has paid money to Google, that university may be first. For example, this NEF Law College, if they want to showcase yourself on the Google as a search engine optimization, if they sign agreement with Google, anybody searching that what are the top law school in India, what will happen? NEF Law School may come first in your search results, and then other good law school may come later on. This is the big business. Okay. So this way, even the entire business promotion, business optimization, the web advertising, all are changing. And how it's happening? If you see earlier days, even for publishing or advertisement on the print media, it is a very costly affair. If anybody want to publish the ads on the, for example, Times of India, all English versions of the 23, 24 states, by 3 inch ad, he has to pay, I think, more than 30-40 lakh rupees for 1 day publication. And then the business reach is very less, because paper will come, you may read, we may not be reading, or somebody will read, and then the business reach is very less, and impact is also further less. So what people are doing, people are shifting from print media to social media or AI system or Google optimization to promote their business. So my point is that we feel that we are doing free of cost. We are getting free of cost Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, even WhatsApp, Gmail, all these accounts. But in fact, when these companies are giving you access to your account, you're going to open these websites or open these accounts, you are going to sign a click wrap contract. The licensing terms will come, and because you don't have time to read 500 pages contract, you will just simply click and say yes. So you give all your rights to those companies, they can use your data, multiply data, visualize data, and save your data and use it for business purposes. So data is now big business. Now we say data is new oil. So all the companies, everybody is behind data. We have now big data. We have data analysis. Even we are in courses, anybody can become expert of data analytics, big data. Okay, now there's data science is growing a field in the area of science and technology. And then there's a lot of linkage between law, science, and technologies. So now the question is that how to regulate, what should be the policy, what should be the standards, how data will be collected, data will be utilized, data will be shared, because data is now not a local issue. This is data is a global issue. So all the global players should come forward, sit together, and have kind of a system for data regulation, data protection. And then now connected thing is a kind of cyber security, because if data is not safe, data is copied, data is kind of hacked. Okay, in that case, also it is further angle is of data privacy. That is the angle of constitutional law, because we have privacy, the fundamental right. So if our data is not safe, data is, or personal data is copied, the area of the cyber security and also another area is growing. So because of AI, so AI is now new game globally, and all the things are taken over by the AI, artificial intelligence. So most of the works are now shifted from human being to the artificial intelligence and machine learning. So machine is becoming more and more intelligent in that case, because the AI, what AI will do, if you fix certain thing, then AI will do. But what is happening right now, because of the machine learning, suppose you fixed 1, 2, 3, 5 work for AI. The AI will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 work. But what is happening, because of machine learning, AI now can also do 6th work. So AI will be seeing your trend, your thought process, what is generally your thought process, what is your level of decision making, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is going to be the 6th step or action by you, AI may suggest. So AI may calculate by herself, by itself, and say this is the 6th thing. So that's why AI is taking a great step. And we have seen in the last year election of the Trump, that Russian group, they were using social media to do a lot of disturbance in the American election of Trump. And there was a Cambridge Analytica case, the company, they were using this database from the Facebook and using for election analysis and trying to find out that what is the, those who are electoral rates, those who are going to file the elections, and those who are casting their votes, what is their trend, how they're thinking, and which candidates is going to win, because of lot of social media analysis. In that case, what they were doing, they are trying to change the mindset. For example, if any person wanted to cast election to Mr. B, and they wanted to win the candidate A, they will be trying to use some AI, artificial intelligence, and change the mindset of the Mr. person wanted to cast B to cast the vote to A. So this is very serious matter, because the AI has become so intelligent, machine learning becomes so intelligent, that now they're trying to change our mindset. That is very serious matter. And also now we are seeing that the AI is going to take very good decision. So you might have heard that Saudi Arabia is the first country in the world who has given the kind of this citizenship to one of the robots. Okay, so now that robot has got the citizenship in Saudi Arabia. So generally what happened, the artificial intelligence or the robots and all are not having the legal status, but Saudi Arab has given the legal status, and also that robot has now 7 more robots, the family of robots. And recently there was an election in Saudi Arab, and that robot has participated in the election and selected the best candidate. Now, how a robot can select the best candidate? This is very serious matter for thought. So what they have done, they have feeded the program about all 7 candidates. They have feeded their background, qualification, their attitude, personality, their manifesto and all. And depending on that, that Sophia is the name of the that robot got the citizenship in Saudi Arabia. That Sophia is able to select the best candidate. How? Sophia analyze the background data put in the against her, and then depending on that, Sophia has decided who is best candidate. So even robot can also take a decision. And also you might have heard that there's a robot who has even given the challenge to the best chess player in the world. So the kind of intelligence that acquired by AI is going to challenge the human being. So in future, what is going to happen? We are going to shift lot amount of work from human being to AI, because AI can do 24/7 job without any kind of mischief, without any kind of cheating, fraud, timely completion of the work, good quality work. Even AI can further take the work of human being as a manager, because AI further can guide what can be the decision. So the earlier what we are asking from AI was doing, but now AI is doing additional work, the sixth sense, that finding the trend and taking a decision. So this is the work of human being, to take a call, to decide, to feel. So the feeling is the new target, that can AI start feeling? The moment AI will start feeling, that is the human kind of element, human tendency to a feeling of anger, love, affection. Okay. So when AI will have a feeling, AI will be going to replace the human being. Okay. So that's why now the question is that, can AI should be regulated throughout the world? Yes. So currently there is no law which is able to regulate the AI. So all these people who are having a technology, they are using by themselves without any regulation, and all these multinational companies, some are great beneficiary, because once there is a regulation, they have check and balance to comply. But currently there is no regulations. They are getting the free hand to do any activity. For example, if you purchase Apple mobile phone, already having the fingerprints and also your face recognition technology. So you can also put your face, and then you will be able to open your phone. Once you are there, your face is required. It's a unique kind of identification. So that is a very, very important matter. So if a mobile and AI can recognize your face, and also you're putting your finger, and these two data can be stored in the central server of Apple company, and it can be used somewhere. You don't know that these two data is with the Apple, and then it can be used. It can be used against you without your knowledge, because this is a very, very private information that you know only, and you will be testifying to somewhere at some place that somebody may misuse your identity, and then you will not be knowing that how it was used. But because since there is no regulation for face recognition technology, there is no regulation about that you are putting your fingers and you are very happy. People generally sometimes buy that, whether your latest mobile has finger optimization or face technology or not, you are paying even big money to these companies. But since there is no regulation on these areas, so that's why these companies are using, and you are very happy, because you also want a cyber security, you want security of your mobile phone, that nobody can crack. Because to crack your mobile phone, your face is required. If somebody will bring to you, you will be able to find out this is your phone. Okay. And this way, the AI is taking lot of actions. So at least one thing is at least right now safe, that at least legal profession is safe. At least legal profession will not be fully taken over by the AI, because the argument in the court and judgment by the judge is currently not fully done by the AI. But at least lot of basic work regarding the research. If you see our days, we used to go to our teacher used to ask that please go and read this case from AIR. Then we used to go to library and find out the AIR. There is only one copy of AIR, and every entire class is behind that particular case. Then we have to go to Xerox wala. The big queue is there to get the copy of the Xerox copy of the case, and then we have to read and come to the next day in the class. So our teacher Fazan Mustafa, who is currently the vice chancellor of Nalsar Hyderabad, he used to be very particular about that the reading of the cases. So then we have to come to the class and then discuss. So my point is that to get a particular case, it was a very serious challenge. But right now, because of the almost all the top class database companies, they are providing AI enabled data protection, database, legal database. So if you want to, for example, if you want to get a particular case, simply you open the that particular database and you search. For example, anybody want to search kind of a murder case. Murder cases of murder decided by Supreme Court of India for certain period. You just simply put the duration, put the nature of the case, you will get listing of several cases. But what AI will do, AI will be telling you that no, you have to cite these 20 cases because you are going to file your case to Justice X, and Justice X is fond of certain kind of thought process. For example, if you are going to file a human right case, and then if Justice V.R. Krishnan Iyer is sitting on the table as a judge, and then V.R. Krishnan Iyer is great fond of the human right kind of the aspects of the judgments, he will be not going to tolerate anything violating the human rights. So you must try to cite those cases which is already delivered by Justice V.R. Krishnan Iyer, and then he may like these kind of arguments. So my point is that there is so much optimization that you can find particular case, you can find particular para of the particular case which you have to cite against the judge. Even it will tell the judge personality, because the machine is so intelligent. Machine will analyze the thought process of the judge, and machine can tell which case to cite, which para to cite, because this is the trend of this particular judge. Same way, see this Kuldeep Singh, if anything going against the environment, if we say green judge, he will not tolerate. So then in that case, if you are arguing a court of law and you already done some mischief to the environment, you will not be going to win the case, because he will not be tolerating anything polluting the environment. So then AI will tell you, you cite these cases, this portion, because judge is, this is Kuldeep Singh, that's why you must take this argument. So currently the AI is not taking over the entire work of the law profession, but it is going to assisting a lot for legal profession. And in other areas, same way, even for the operation for the patient by doctors. Now doctors are using a lot of AI. And sometimes AI is guiding the doctors that where to operate, where to open, how much to kind of operate, what, how to operate. Even AI is guiding the lot of doctors, because what is happening, AI has become so intelligent because AI has machine learning. They have seen maybe 100, 200 cases, and they are going to advise the doctor how to operate this case. Why I'm citing this example? Because I want to say that AI is going to become more accurate, more specific, without any wastage of time, okay, without any mischief. It is great support to any company, any person, any process. So AI is the now big debate in the world, and that's why AI regulation is very, very important area. All the legal thinkers, these jurists, they have to come forward. They have to set a standards, because the way I'm just talking about the positive things the AI is doing, AI may also do negative thing. AI may also start doing some crimes. AI may start doing some mischief, because AI will be depending on the kind of program you feed it in the system. So I can also make a kind of a instrument AI based instrument that will do only the negative things. That AI will be only hacking the system, AI will be doing only crimes, AI will be flowing only wrong information, AI will be flowing the fake news. What is happening? The current challenge is fake news. So all the social media, what happened in the COVID period, there were a lot of rampant fake news. And it was very challenging that from where news is coming. Because if news is flown by AI and flowing on all WhatsApp groups, and sometimes we feel that what is coming on the WhatsApp is true, and sometimes we feel a duty to forward. Whatever will come, I'll forward without even reading. People are forwarding. So any wrong information developed by AI system flown on the WhatsApp and going to several groups, now it be globally circulating and changing the entire system, entire thought process of the world against any community, against any political party, against any country. So this way, even AI can also do a lot of crimes, lot of mischief, lot of thoughts. Now who will be liable? How to find that the person who was behind that AI? So my point is that AI regulation is big challenge, and that's why globally we have to set standards. But currently there is no standards. All the company, they want to run AI as per their whims and fancies, as per their choice. You know that IT company, what they will do? IT company will never allow to regulation, because any regulation will be always against their interest. So they want free flow. And we as a lawyer, as a law professional, we always want a great regulation. We as a lawyer want everything should be properly regulated, because we are lawyer, we believe in regulation. So if it is regulated, it is always good. But optimum regulation, what to be regulated, what much we have to regulate, what much we not regulate. So that's why regulation is one of the very, very important area in this AI system. Now we are seeing the another technology coming, that is blockchain technology. So blockchain technology is a kind of new development. For the first time in 1991, some of the technocrats, they have published a paper on the internet that there is some kind of technology called as blockchain. But for the first time in 2008, 2009, we have seen a white paper on blockchain technology and then cryptocurrency. So now we have going to see a new world, because and the COVID-19 has changed the entire world, because COVID-19 has naturally proved the technology, because the blockchain technology is based on distributed decentralized system. And currently what we are doing, if there was a natural time period, we all should have been at one place, that 280 students, myself, all may be at one place, centralized place, talking about this particular seminar. But now we are in webinar. So all these 280 persons are different places. It may be different part of the country, or maybe somebody from foreign country. I'm in Dehradun. So it is purely a distributed system, but all are connected. All can listen me, I can listen you, anybody, I can see all of you, you can see me. So we are truly at one place, but we are really distributed. We are decentralized, but at one place. So we are decentralized person, but controlled by, regulated by technology. It shows that we are at one place, but we are not at one place. So this is the entire funda of blockchain technology. So blockchain technology is based on decentralized distributed ledger system, that things will be distributed and then it will be controlled by one place. So this is the very innovative technology, and it is going to be the future. In future, we have to see the blockchain technology and the cryptocurrency. So when the blockchain started, we thought that it is only for the cryptocurrency, because those people who were mostly always on the this deep net, dark net, and also do lot of money laundering and lot of this kind of black money transaction and all, they used to use this technology because so generally we talk about clear net, and that is hardly 4%. But there is a big challenge about the regulation of dark net, deep net. So that we talk about the entire internet is only 4% we are talking. Everything happening in 4%, what we talking a general person. But there's the deep net and there is dark net. So deep net and dark net include 96%. In the deep net, all the banks databases, all the banks, government and companies, main data centers are lying in the deep net. So nobody can touch what is happening, where is what is kept. And there is a further level deep, there's a dark net. In the dark net, all the criminals, so all the cyber criminals, they operate from the dark net. Because in the dark net is based on some different technology, VPN technology. It is based on the kind of some different website system, different structure. And generally, we generally advise not to go to dark net, because the moment you are going to the dark net, all the criminals are sitting there and they will feel you are also one of the criminals and you came to do some hacking, cracking, or data breach or data leakage. So you may also be hacked there. So go with the very kind of the safe and security. So currently there is no regulation of the dark net. And you might have heard Silk Route system. There's in 2013-14, there was a cracking by Silk Route. So the Silk Route was a kind of, there were two partners. They used to do a lot of cyber crimes and by sitting on the darknet. And because of some transaction, there were fight among both the friends and they become enemies. And one person has leaked information to some enforcement agencies, and the person was caught. Because if you want to catch the cyber criminals in the darknet, you have to, only you can catch when some operations are going on. So we say forum shopping in the darknet. Every time people will open shop and do the business and close the shop. So for the police people and enforcement agencies, tracking is very challenging. So what happened, currently all big money laundering cases, big cybercrime cases, drug, mafia, all they are doing in the darknet. And how they deal? They pay money in the cryptocurrency. And the cryptocurrency is based on the blockchain technology. So as a technology, the blockchain technology, as a blockchain, it is kind of, blockchain is allowed. So blockchain technology is a legal technology already approved by the American Supreme Court, Russia, and all these European Union. Everybody has approved the blockchain as a technology, because blockchain technology is a distributed ledger system, decentralized model you can use for any purpose. So firstly, it was used by cyber criminals for paying kind of hawala transaction, paying for the drugs, mafia, black money transactions and all were happening in the cryptocurrency. But what is happening now, blockchain is growing very fast and we see lot of benefits of the blockchain technology. So I can talk today how the blockchain is going to support the intellectual property system. Because any intellectual property creator, what he wants that his work should be properly protected. And then he should know that who is using his work and for what purpose. So, but our current IPR system is based on centralized system, that it is centralized control. Anybody want to register his IPR, he will be using to protect for the trademark, design, copyright, patent. He is going to the different offices and he is applying and getting the protection. But what happens in the decentralized system? So in this current model, the issue is that once you want to give license to somebody, you are not aware who are the person who want license of your product. And then you are not able to find out who are the person who are misusing your work. For example, somebody has authored a book and he got a copyright, but he may not be aware that who are the person reading his book and who are the person who has purchased the book legally and who are the person who has fully xeroxed the book and reading. He cannot track. Same way somebody has made a medicine and that he will not be able to find out the company who has made the medicine, that who are the person consuming the medicine and who are the person who is making the fake medicine, duplicate medicine and selling in the market. He cannot find out in the current system. So the current system main issue is that controlling the fake kind of utilization and finding out who are actually using the license is a very big challenge to find out. But if you are using the blockchain technology, by this technology, because it is based on the decentralized ledger system, in that case, he is able to find out that who are the person who are going to use this technology, because it is based on the decentralized system and it is listed somewhere. So that's why the new model centralized IPR registration and regulation model, we have to shift by a blockchain oriented decentralized model. This will take too much time. It is not very easy. It is a very costly affair, but this is the future. Maybe 10 years, 20 years, 50, 100 years, we are going to see this model. Because any IPR creator, what he want the protection of his IPR work, whether copyright, design, trademark, copyright, anything on, and also he want commercialization, that anybody who want license, then how license can be given and how he find that who are seeking the license. For example, I can take example of the COVID-19. For COVID-19 kind of the disease, everybody, all scientists, all R&D companies, every country is behind the finding the solution of COVID-19. So till now, we have 3 countries who are the 3rd stage of human trial. That is the China, then we have Russia, and then Oxford University in London. So they have gone to 3rd stage of human trial. Now what will happen after the trial? Once the person who is able to produce for the first time the complete maybe injection or medicine for this disease, and trying and prove these 4 requirements: utility, non-obviousness, industrial application, and then the inventive step, he will be getting the patent. If the country who invent the first medicine, he is part of the TRIPS agreement, then by PC, that Patent Cooperation Treaty, by single application, he can apply patent to the entire world, all member countries. Okay, and then he can be then protected as a patent holder of the COVID-19 medicine. What will happen? Then the company who will produce this medicine and who is the patent holder, global holder, there may be possibility also that there may be 3 or 4, 5 medicines will be patented, but these 4, 5 medicines will be having all have different process and different product. There may be 4 products may treat the COVID-19. There may be only 1 product these treat the COVID-19. That scientist has to prove. And if they have kind of more than 1 process to produce the medicine, and they have more than 1 product to treat the COVID-19 kind of the patient, in that case, all will get a separate patent protection. So suppose company A has got the patent now. What they require? They require that who are the countries, who are the people who want to get the license. So that, for example, suppose that Oxford University may get the patent, for example. So after getting the patent, the Oxford University cannot commercialize that COVID-19 medicine. They want the other medicine companies coming forward and producing the medicine. What they want the complete process, complete technology, how to produce that. Who has? Oxford University. And what is their benefit? They may be charging the license fees. Okay. So in the currently what is challenge? All the companies, all the IPR holders, they are not able to find out who are the person who want to use my technology, who want the license. Okay. And second thing is that if somebody is misusing that particular license, they are not able to find out. But in the blockchain model, once our centralized system of the protection of IPR registration process is blockchain model, decentralized ledger system, what will happen? That they will be able to find out that who are the person who are using their particular kind of the IPR products, and then who are seeking the license and who are using, who are misusing. That will be very easy for that person, and that is the whole idea of the IPR. Once you are able to commercialize properly, you will be able to get return from the market. This will be further boosting your the trust and confidence, and this way it will be great support to the entire IPR world. So I see a lot of benefits of the blockchain technology in the IPR world. And how but it is having a lot of technical challenges that everybody will change the entire system of registration process, licensing process, protection, and then I go by the examiners in the patent office, how to examine the system. It will be a lot of kind of the disruption of technology. It is going to disrupt the entire process of IPR grants, promotion, licensing, commercialization by the this patent trademark office, and also by the license holders. But there are some challenges. Even in the blockchain technology, there are some chances of violations. There's some chances of again data protection issue will come, because in the old, in the current model, if you are applying for the patent in Indian office, your applications are kept in India. But what will happen in the blockchain model? If you are applying through the blockchain, what will happen? This information will be scattered because it's decentralized model. It will be going to different nodes, and these nodes may be lying in different computers in different parts of the world. So one issue is that jurisdiction. If somebody has copied the information, that what are the places information was copied, and then every country may have different law. The issue of jurisdiction will come, issue of privacy will come, issue of security will come. Okay, so it has inherent challenges also. So we have to also set that global security standards, global regulation standards, global privacy standards. Even privacy law of internet is different in different countries. So because of these technologies, globally we have to find the solutions. And then we have to find a kind of the common meeting of minds. For example, till now for the cyber security regulations, there is no common meeting of mind. Only European Union, they have a cyber crime regulation. It is common to all European countries, but globally, every country is trying to regulate cyber crime by their own protection. So even for the cyber security, because if you talk about cyber security, we have to talk about the governance of internet. So governance of internet is currently done by ARPANET, that is the private regulatory body. And then this particular body, what they do, that's for the domain name system and all of the internet of the websites. So currently the internet is governed by a private body, not by a government, but internet has become a global platform for sharing information. Okay, everything is on internet, but governed by a private group. And then this private group is playing in the hands of America, because all the multinational companies of this technology, they belong to mostly USA. So USA is indirectly controlling, regulating the internet. But why America will control? Because every country, as per the international law, every country is a kind of independent country. Every country is independent, and they should have kind of power to frame the laws, regulate their system and processes. But indirectly through internet, America is regulating, because all the IT companies belong to USA. So to settle these norms and cybersecurity standards, there is no global kind of arrangement right now, because America is not coming forward to talk, because America is always getting benefit. And on this point, at least Russia, India, China at one group, America is another group, and they're not able to set. Same challenge will come for regulatory standards of the AI, for blockchain. But AI and blockchain, these are the future of the world, and they will be setting the new standards, new norms, because the kind of benefits, cost benefit analysis, if you see, very cheap, very easy, very perfect, foolproof, and useful for everybody. With these few words, I want to close here. I'll be open for the question answer by all. I think you might have a lot of questions, because see, big participants are there. So thank you all for patient hearing. And now I'm open for the question answer. You may ask the question, please.
Thank you so much, sir, for your encouraging words and your beautiful deliberation. Now, I would like to request my co-host, Mrs. Shruti Hazarika, Assistant Professor, NEF Law College, to take over and proceed with the interactive session.
Thank you, Ms. Thakur. A very good afternoon to one and all present here today. I, Shruti Hazarika, co-host of today's webinar and Assistant Law Professor of NEF Law College, feel immense pride and honor to be a part of this national webinar among such dignified dignitaries. I would like to extend a hearty thank you to Professor Tabriz Ahmed for such an informative presentation and making it a learning experience for us all. Without any further ado, I would now like to begin with the interactive session. First, I would like to invite Mr. Manish Goswami, Advocate of Supreme Court of India. Sir has been practicing in the Supreme Court since the last 20 years. Sir, if you are here, please kindly put forth your question. Mr. Manish Goswami. Sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Principal Barua, Professor Ahmed, and all the viewers. very outset, Professor Ahmed, it was a very, very instructive and informative session. Thank you for that. I personally got a lot of information.
Thank you.
And I also greet you on Eid, though it was yesterday,
Thank you.
but nevertheless.
Okay.
Now, you have rightly flagged the issue that data is the new oil. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is absolutely, there's no doubt. Now, the PDPB, that is the Personal Data Protection Bill,
Yeah.
which is now pending in the Parliament, it proposes to apply to the processing of personal data that has been collected, disclosed, shared, or otherwise processed within the territory of India.
Correct.
This is the bill that proposes. We don't know what will be the framework of the act, whether the wordings will change or not.
Yeah.
Now, in the context of the bill as it stands today, from your vast knowledge, may I ask you what could be the regulatory framework that you may suggest vis-a-vis three important issues, which you have briefly touched, but
Yeah.
what could be the regulatory framework vis-a-vis the jurisdiction issues, the data security, and the privacy concern? Because these are the three things that would determine how successful this whole technology would be.
Yeah, correct.
Data security and privacy concerns. What should be the regulatory framework? Because we are still moving towards that stage.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Actually, thank you for asking a very good question and also appreciating the interaction. The main challenge is that regarding the sensitive personal data, that government has to decide what is the sensitive personal data, because the other data people, they want to disclose themselves. For example, they are going to Facebook, social media, and people sometimes go on sharing the information of their private kind of the parties, going to the hotels, marriage photographs and that, the birthday parties. Sometimes they are sharing by themselves that they want to say that it is not the private, I want to make it public. So even if you go to Facebook, they have three categories that you want to share information to friends, or you want to keep yourself. So one issue is that the person has got the kind of ability to say what is private, what is not private. But if somebody want to say this is private information, then government has a kind of liability to provide protection of the privacy. So sensitive personal data, it is not defined in the bill. Now government has to properly define what is sensitive personal data. For example, data of Aadhaar card, okay, of your date of birth, okay, your health information, okay, your bank's information. So there are a lot of information which is very, very sensitive. And then how government is going to ensure the security of those information is very, very challenging area. Government can simply say that now these are the sensitive personal information. In that case, nobody will collect without the approval of the person. So I was just talking about the data localization issue, and now also there is an issue that the person who is collecting the data, he must take permission from the data subjects. So now law is our bill is want to say that now it is in debate that how to take the kind of permission. So suppose, for example, my information is there and somebody want to take my information. For example, government want to collect information. We had the debate right now before the COVID-19. So a lot of fight was going on regarding the citizenship amendment bill, this and that, and government wanted to restart the process of collecting data. So once the first issue is that what data government should collect, and then those data which are already sensitive and personal, if government has collected, in that case, government must tell that why they want to collect data. So the law is going to like this: anybody who is going to collect any data, then first thing is that data is of what nature: public data, private data, sensitive data, personal sensitive data. So that is very serious matter. Second thing is that when you are going to use the data, you must tell that this data is collected for this purpose and it will be used for this purpose. Third category is that if there is some data breach. So currently for any data breach, nobody informing us. For example, I can cite one example. I was in an international seminar and I met all the enforcement agencies who are handling the even deep net, dark net data protection. What they informed me that there was a bank in Pune. It was 2 years back case, and that bank was losing per hour 1 crore rupees. and because it was hacked by cyber criminals, and every hour 1 crore was passing from the bank, and bank was helpless. And last 2 days, bank was trying to control, but they were helpless. So what happened then? American CIA called the Indian government saying that there's a bank in India, and then bank is losing a lot of money. What you're doing? Then government approached the bank. Then bank disclosed to the government. Okay, so these money belong to us, all the customers. Why government was not telling? Because if government will tell, the share market will crash. So even the company, that bank will become bankrupt in 1 hour, because those who have money invested in the bank, they will withdraw immediately. So for the security safety of the bank, they were not disclosing. But at least when these cyber hackers, they were actually taking the money from the bank. If they can take money from the bank, they can also take all the information that is sensitive personal information. For example, you are a company, you have account in the bank, you might have taken loan. Okay, you might have given all your business documents to the bank, your Aadhaar, all in your investment details, everything is lying with the bank. And if the cyber criminals can withdraw money from the bank, they can also take all the records maintained in the bank's computer. They can hack. So the question is that how to divide all the information, what is sensitive personal, what is personal. Second thing is that if anybody is collecting data, he must take the prior permission. And then if they're using the data, they have to use for those purpose only. If they are going to use for different purpose, they'll be liable. And if that data is breached, they have to inform the data subject that your information is breached. But currently, it's for the current, because it is not law right now, that's why nobody informing us. We will only read in the paper that, oh, SBI card data is breached, or this data is breached, Aadhaar card data is breached. But actually the person who collected our data, he has to come, and immediately the moment data breach is there, within 12 hours, they have to tell us your data is breached. Even they have to tell us that after breach, what is happening, what is the strategy to control the data. So you asked a very varied question, and also I told that the data is big challenge. Entire AI system, big data analytics, all the entire businesses in the world right now is depending on data. So everybody is behind data collection, data use, data analytics, and then you use the filter data. So I was telling the data is new oil and filter data is refined oil. So refined data is a refined oil. So data refining is right now is big challenge, and a lot of AI is utilized in the data analysis. Regarding cybersecurity, I told you that on cybersecurity globally, there is no understanding right now. Even the America is one side, and China, Russia, India is one group, because America is greatest beneficiary. Because indirectly, I just told you, entire internet is controlled by, managed by USA, because USA means it is run by a private group. All the private groups, they are corporate world, and these corporate world IT companies belong to mostly USA. So indirectly, the whole control is USA. So it means that the kind of information currently America has, global information, nobody has. And the second country is China. How China is having? China, because of their apps. So all the apps mostly belong to China, and they're just collecting information. Even Zoom, we are doing the meeting right now. In the Zoom, I know several cases during the meeting. People have seen kind of on the screen, the pornography started coming, some sound started coming, because somebody is trying to just enter in the meeting, listen what is happening. So that is a very big challenge. The cybersecurity, data protection, sensitive personal data, and regulation. So India has gone to now very high level. Very soon we are going to have law, because even Indian law is based on the GDPR of European Union, and that is the most advanced law in the world. And Indian law is not fully drafted by the Indians. Lot of things were actually taken from the GDPR. We are customizing and making it more relevant to the Indian scenario. So let us see and wait and watch what government actually ultimately comes in the form of the act. But still we have chance to review by the Supreme Court of India and judicial review. This is one of the best part of the country, that we have judicial review. So if even act will come and may not be very useful, somebody may go to the court, and court will have judicial review and see. So, and then we can further go on improving and go on adding value. People like you can argue in a court of Supreme Court of India, and then help the kind of further maturity of the data personnel of the country. So I think you got the answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dr. Ahmed, are you there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm there.
Our next question is from Mr. Jacob George, Assistant Professor of Bennett University, Greater Noida. Sir, are you here? Mr. Jacob George, please put forth your question.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, sir, for a very enlightening lecture. My question is basically with regard to when you spoke about machine learning. So, is it possible that, the way things are going in the near future, we'll see a time when, because of machine learning, patents will be granted in the name of artificial intelligence rather than human beings? Or say even for copyright also, the authors will actually be machines and not human beings?
So very good question. In fact, I missed this particular part. So I'm happy that somebody has brought, Jacob has brought this particular point for discussion. Now the big issue is that I was just talking about this AI and blockchain. Now I have not covered the issue of how to go protection of the AI as a kind of inventor.
Correct, sir.
Because currently the debate is going on that can we really provide patent and copyright to AIs or not as a machine learning process. Because when the issue started a few years back, there was a famous photographer. He was in jungle. He was clicking the photographs, and then one chimpanzee, he was very curious what is happening. So he came and then taken the photograph, the camera from the photographer, went to highest peak of the plant and clicked several photographs. And then also he clicked some of the selfies of the himself, that chimpanzee. These photographs were posted to Wikipedia by somebody else. And then the person who was the photographer, he thought that he is the copyright holder. He has challenged that why without my permission these photographs are posted on the Wikipedia. Then the case went to this in USA in Supreme Court. The whole debate started that can we really start thinking to provide protection of the this IPR to non-human being? Because currently even today in India and UK, all the places in USA, law is that this IPR will be held by only by human being. So animals, artificial intelligence, nobody can have the IPR, because IPR is kind of intellectual property, something coming from intellect, and we have the intellect, human being. So only we will be holding the IPR. But the question is that I was just telling about the entire story of the AI, machine learning, blockchain. The way machine is becoming very, very intelligent, even machine is going to start having feelings, and after finding the trend, machine can decide what is my next action. So if machine will see my 50 actions, machine can easily kind of presume that what is going to be the 51 action. So that 51 action is not by me, it is my machine. My machine is saying that what is my 51 action. So this way, if machine can do lot of analysis of the current inventions, in the same trend, machine can tell what is going to be the new invention. So machine is really very intelligent right now. Machine can really find out the new inventive step, because of the machine will do analysis, do research of the current development, all the other development, and machine will be able to add one inventive step. But because of the regulatory challenges, currently we are not awarding any protection to machine. But it is my personal belief that in future we have to replace ourselves. We have to start giving protection to the machines, that non-human person will also be able to get the IP. But it has further challenges. For example, because if we see that non-human relevant thing will be able to get the IP, then the question will be liability. For example, if any machine will be misusing certain information and machine will be producing something infringing property. So machine may copy from 50 resources and machine will give a new kind of product. So machine has not invented anything. Machine has infringed 50 kind of the people's work and given a new product. Whether new product will be held by machine. If machine is holding the right, then also machine will take the liability. If machine is liable, in that case, who will be having the liability? So if you see the kind of the history back, if you go to 1995 for the first time, there was a case, and in that case, the question was that if anybody is writing a poem by a pen, so whether pen has a copyright or the poet poet has a copyright. So in 1995, it was decided by the court that no, pen, so there are two kinds of work, assisted work and generated work. In this case, the poem was generated by the poet, only pen was assisting to write the poem. So anybody assisting to make any IPR work will not be getting the IPR. Anybody generating the work will be getting the IPR. So in this process, author was generating the work because author's mind, entire ideas are coming, a new poem. So author will be getting the copyright, pen will not be getting the copyright. Now we have same issue. After the 25 years, now same issue has come up. If anybody, so there are two kinds of work, computer assisted work, that AI supported work, or AI generated work. So for any AI supported work, the person who was behind that, he will be getting the IPR. But if AI itself generates certain work, then AI should get also the protection. So the question is going on and everybody is trying to find out that what should be the solution. In December last year, WIPO has published a white paper on their website. I think I suggest all of you to go and see the WIPO recommendation that WIPO is debating right now and trying to find out that how to regulate the AI and can we really provide the IPR protection to AI or not. So I think you can go and read and suggest, but my personal opinion that I'm supporter of the kind of the blending of the protection. So I suggest that for AI thing, the person who was behind the AI, who invested money and regulating the, who are supporting the AI, that person and plus AI, both jointly can hold the protection. Both jointly can hold the IPR. And if anything copied or infringed and all any kind of the case against that person for the court is not followed, in that case the person will be holding the liability. And then now the question is that the part, the kind of the money part, which was really supposed to be got by the machine, where the money will be kept, who will be using that machine, some money kind of royalty thing. So that royalty thing can be kept in a public exchequer, and that money can be used for social purpose. Or if machine will be doing liability, that money will be going to pay to the court, to the government from that particular public exchequer. Or just like in the copyright law and IPR, what we see that after 20 years, it is going to the public domain, society can utilize. Same way, the kind of money will be paid to the AI as a royalty, that money will be kept to the public exchequer, that money can be used for social development, public development, road, building, construction, support. This way, I think we can find a solution. Because if you're giving the full kind of protection to the AI, then liability part will be challenged. And then if we will not provide protection to the AI, only the person who was creating the AI, that person will become elitist, become too much rich. If you become too much rich, it will further going against the balancing of the have and have nots. It will create the further gap and will be going against the entire idea of the equality. Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
It's fine.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, any more questions?
Yes, sir. Sir, I would like to pick few questions from the chat box. The first question is from Ms. Namrata Das. Her question is, to what extent can blockchain preserve a certain amount of privacy through a public key and private key? Are there any methods proposed to improve anonymity of blockchain?
No, blockchain is really very, very useful than the other technology because blockchain is work on blocks. So any information is moving from the blocks and information is not at one place. So this is not a centralized system, it's a decentralized ledger technology. So one information is be staying at several places, several nodes, at several computers, they may be lying in different countries. So one way it is very, very safe. As a matter of privacy, very, very safe, because the person who wants to see information, he must have the comparable, the private key, okay, public key. So public key, private key infrastructure system model is there. So by one key, you can create the information. By other key, anybody who has provided the key can see the information. So in the blockchain model, things are very, very safe, secure, and private. But there was one boy of 18-year age last year what he has done, he has proved that even he can hack the blockchain. How? What he has done, he was, suppose for example, information is kept in different computer, different nodes are there. So when the information is passing at a node, at the node level, if you change the information, then the other nodes will get the modified information, and then other nodes will get confused. They will see this is the correct information. So even there is a possibility of hacking also to node level in blockchain. But this is very, very safe if you compare. If you compare the the centralized system, because in the centralized system, data is kept at one place. If anybody will hack data, change data, manipulate data, retrieve data, data has gone or data manipulated. But in this system, if the blockchain model, it is kept in the blockchain, at least data hampering will be a challenge, data changing will be a challenge. And because you have to change at all nodes, if you want to, some data is already there, and if you want to, because hacking is possible when data is started flowing, that level you can change. So that is very, very kind of the extreme impossibility. That somebody was behind you, tracking you, and he know very well that you are going to flow information, and he was at the node level, and he tracked the data, and then he changed. It's not very easy. But in centralized system, because you know very well some data is kept in some computer, some center, you just hide that computer, you take the information, or send the information, you can do. But in the blockchain model, because in the information is several nodes, several computers, you have to change and go to computer and change, node to node to change. So changing node to node level will be challenge. And even if one node is left, you're not aware even how many computer data is there. So even you left one computer, could not change. During the investigation process, if one computer was, original data was already there, that will be strong evidence that somebody has changed the data and you will be caught. So at least security point of view, privacy point of view, blockchain model is more safe and secure than the centralized model. But the issue is that because every blockchain is work on different technology. So currently the challenge is that data optimization is the big challenge, because for example, already for cryptocurrency, there is Bitcoin, there is Ethernet, this and that, the different kind of blockchains are there. So, but all these blockchains should have a kind of optimization. For example, I have data in system A blockchain. Now my friend's data is system B blockchain. Now we want to exchange the information. There is currently a problem because there is no optimization. So going forward, all the companies who are developing the blockchain, they have to have kind of data optimization, just like currently the mobile phone. In earlier days, if you are a customer of, for example, BSNL, and you are not happy with the services, you want to use same number for Jio or Airtel, you could not do. But currently you can do. Because now they have developed the technology, and it's possible that you can have same number but change the company. Same way, going forward, all the blockchain companies, what they do, they have to do a technical kind of optimization, that you are using some different blockchain and you want to switch over to other blockchain, or your friend, licensees, IPR holders, they're using other blockchains, and all can be optimized. So that is the current challenge. I think they have to focus, all the scientists, they're working on this, how to optimize the different blockchains. Because blockchain is not a single technology. Blockchain is a technology, but it has a different platforms. All the platforms should be optimized to have the real benefits of blockchain. I think in future we can have the optimization.
Thank you, sir. The next question from the chat box is from Dr. Rupali Debarma. Her question is, why do mobile apps require access to my data and other tools which is not required? Isn't it violation of one's privacy? How to protect one's own data stored in mobile, like OTP, bank statement, transaction, etc.? Please provide any solution if there is.
So Rupali, thank you very much. So Rupali has been my student. I was her teacher. So very good to see that she's there in the program. So Rupali, very good question. I told in my lecture that because nothing is coming free of cost. So sometimes we are very happy. We get free of cost social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. But we are getting as a kind of cost, because once you are going to open the websites, we are signing an agreement with the company and we are ourselves, the click wrap contract, we see, yes, company can do. So in the privacy system, the person who holds the information, he will declare the fundamental right. You should say what is private, what is not private. So anybody has a right to disclose his privacy. Okay. So what is happening in the private, what is happening in the apps, once you're going to download the app will ask certain information. And it is up to you to give information or not give information, because if you are denying the information, app will not be downloaded. So app will only download if you will provide all information. And app is saying that if you give this information, I will be providing you free of cost app services. So you are yourself already given the consent to the app to you take my information. What I feel, these are not my private information. And also app has a kind of power to use my data for any purposes. So already you authorize the app. So app is doing. So best solution is that do not use the private apps. Always try to go with this kind of tested and proven safe and secure apps to use kind of your data. And once you are using the app, definitely app will collect the data that will be shared somewhere. And then that somewhere may also be further shared somewhere, because currently as per data protection law, data collection is not regulated. Who is collecting data? What is the purpose? How it was used? How it was breached? I'm just quoting the first question asked by the lawyer. So once it is settled, data protection settled, that anybody, any app collecting data, he must be providing the purpose, and then he must come back to tell how it was used. And if it is breached, he has to tell how it was breached and what action they have taken. So these are under process. I think these problems will be solved once we are going to have our own data protection law implemented in the country.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. So one more question from the chat box from Mr.
So the
Shovik.
last question or
So we
more
have
questions?
two more questions, one from the faculty of NEF Law College and one more question from the chat
Okay,
box.
no, please carry on.
I hope that is not a problem for you.
No, yeah, please, yeah.
Okay, sir. So one question from Mr. Shovik Nath. His question is, there are many properties that are very uncanny similar to each other, like that of an app in Play Store. Just a bit change in character and graphics or any other things. So aren't they violating any copyright? What is limit before violating copyright?
See, for copyright law, the requirement is that you have original expression is the requirement. Okay. So in there's difference in patent and copyright law. In patent, ideas are protected itself. But in the copyright law, ideas are public property. Expression of idea is protected. So if already somebody has expression in the form of design, maybe no expression in the form of kind of the language or kind of the artistic work and all, so it is already available. The question is that if I am going to use that work, so I can use this work as a fair use provided in the 52 of the Copyright Act. This section is very well defined, bulkiest, very lengthiest section in copyright law, provides that how you can use the copyrighted work as an academician, teacher, parliamentarian, judge, or as a student, researcher for kind of the developmental purpose. And if you're going to commercialize this thing, you must take license from the copyright holder. And if you want to register the copyright, you have to do some original expression. So I can see that work, but I have to add certain step. I have to add some more new expression, original expression. How much I can do? I have to do substantial kind of addition as original expression, then I can get a fresh copyright. But in this process, I have to also cite, I have to give citation. I have to recognize as a moral rights. What is happening in the country, what happened, people when they're actually citing the already copyrighted past work. For example, any work is crossed the limitation. The copyright law is life for 60 years, or if it is company, non-natural person, it is only for 60 years. If it is crossed 60 years, you can use the information. But if you're using the information, you again have to cite. That is called a plagiarism. So you have to, you cannot say this is because it has crossed the period of 60 years, it has become my work. You cannot remove the work of the author. Authors, so there are two kinds of rights, commercial right, moral rights. Commercial we generally forget the moral rights. So commercial right will be expired after the time period, but moral right will never expire. It will carry on. So you have to, that's why always cite the original author, but you can mention that I am the author and I've taken the work from somebody else. He was the earlier author. He is cited in the footnote or endnotes, and I'm the person who has improved the work. So that's why, but what is happening, people generally, the old work they will cite, not mention the original author, that's called plagiarism. And also people will, what will do, they will just copy from the 10 places and just merge and mix and show that, oh, this is new work. It's not new work. This is not new work, because what is your edition? Just cutting and pasting from 10 places is not become original. You have to add your thing, new expression. Yeah, arrange these things in a fashion that become original, new expression. So definitely, if anybody is not citing or not quoting, not adding any value, not adding any new expression, at least substantial amount, he is violating the copyright. It is a crime. Nobody can do intentionally.
Thank you, sir. Today we will be taking the last question for the interactive session from our faculty member of NEF Law College, Mrs. Sharmishta Bhattacharjee. Ma'am, please put forth your question.
Thank you, Shruti. Good afternoon, one and all present here. Myself, Sharmishta Bhattacharjee, Assistant Professor, NEF Law College. Would like to ask a question that is, how far blockchain technology prevents cybercrime in mobile banking through providing the safest encrypted channel?
So I told you that mobile as a blockchain is more safer in the context of the centralized system, because if your data is used by the blockchain, in that case, anybody want to use that data, he will be having challenges, because the data is not at one place. Data will be at several places, and that's why, and also the full control by you, because it is in the blocks. So data is flowing in the blocks, is in different blocks, because we say blockchain technology. So data are in different blocks, and that's why you are not able to crack the data or find the data. So that's why it is always useful if you compare to the other technologies. The blockchain is useful for any kind of technology, but generally it is used for cryptocurrency, bitcoins, and as I suggested to use in the kind of the entire IPR process, registration, licensing period, commercialization, and slowly, the blockchain is growing. Even in the health system, even in the the property dealing, if you go and see the challenges for the property right now, one property